Welcome back, one and all, not only to the Damage Report, to the best damn day of the week with me, John Iadarola, and joining us as always on Mondays, Jayar Jackson. How's it going?
Yo, as John said, in case you guys didn't hear him, in case you came in like 3 seconds late, it's the best damn day of the week. It's Monday, you guys. I've been talking for an hour. I'm like ready to go.
Oh my God, you're probably ready to sleep. Yes, so Jayar there is referencing the watch party, which is available at the Watchlist on YouTube. You can check that out every weekday. And now he's fired up, ready to go here as we start the show, in which we're gonna be talking about, shocker of shockers, the war in Iran.
Oh, I was talking about that. That's weird.
I know, I know. I don't like to talk about the same thing, but it's like medium importance news. So right, I guess we will discuss it. Some of the most recent developments in that include Donald Trump realizing, we need allies, I think. Maybe they're not lame-os. And so we'll see how that works out for him. We'll also turn to them now turning against the media. Like, evidently it might soon be a crime to be against the war in the media. That's what it certainly looks like, and a whole lot more besides. We got a few other developments. Trump's obviously super fired up about the success he's had against the media, and we'll also be talking about Pete Hegseth. Is he the dumbest member of the Trump administration? That's a fascinating bracket, but I think he's an early leader, so we'll be talking about that too. And besides that, we've Donald Trump completely whining about the tariffs that were struck down by SCOTUS, more tragic deaths inside of DHS lockup. Jeanine Pirro is just whining her way through the day, failing at the DOJ. And we have yet another prominent right-winger with some questionable text messages with underage girls. So that's a robust genre in the news. So we'll get to that too. And that's just in the first hour. We get more in the aftermath. So ahead of all that, click the like button, share the stream, send us your comments, your super chats, and all of that as we jump into this thing. And with that said, Jayar, are you ready to do the news?
I think I am. I mean, I wish I was a little clearer. I promise you guys, I'm clearer than this when I'm solo. It's crazy.
No, I think it looks pretty clear to me. And I really should have said, are you ready to continue doing the news as we jump into this?
Let's go.
The only thing prohibiting transit in the Straits right now is Iran shooting at shipping. It is open for transit should Iran not do that.
My God, is he a dumbass? Yeah, no, it's totally cool, except for the missiles, I guess, and the mines and the bombing. And other than that, it's good. And if they stop doing that, problem solved. Well, that is true. The issue is that they're not stopping doing that. And you really should have seen this coming, but they didn't. They were too stupid. They didn't listen to military intelligence. They didn't have any intelligence of their own. And so they didn't realize that the Strait of Hormuz was both important and could be relatively easily shut down by Iran. So now, since they didn't realize that, and they refused to just end the war, which, and this is gonna sound a lot like what I used to say about Russia for the first year or so of the Ukraine war, you can literally just turn around and walk east. Any day now, you could just go. We could leave Iran. We could stop the war, but we're not doing that. So Donald Trump realizes, oh, we might need some help actually, which comes off of a solid couple of years of him insulting every one of our most long-standing military allies, besmirching their sacrifices on our behalf, insulting their investments in their defense. Now all of a sudden he needs allies, as you'll see.
Which countries have said that they will help him?
Well, I can't say yet. It's a little early. We contacted today and last night, but we've had some positive response. We had a few that would rather not get involved.
Is China one of them?
I don't want to tell you about that. I mean, I can't really say for sure, but China's an interesting case study. They get most of their oil, as you know, by far. They get a lot. About 90% on the strait. So I said, would you like to come in and we'll find out.
Yeah, so we need allies, and it's one of the reasons why, notably, in past disastrous Middle East wars, at least they set up the allies beforehand. Like George W. Bush did basically everything wrong, but at least he got people on board and he tried to make the case to the American public. Trump did none of that. And so he put out all of these invites, and are there any that he wants to announce that have signed on? No, he doesn't want to talk about any. I wonder why. I wonder if it's because none have signed on, and no other country, after all of this, wants to put their ships and their sailors in place to be blown up by Iran. Why would they? Especially after they've been insulted over and over and over again by this arrogant and stupid and self-destructive administration. But anyway, like this whole thing was supposed to be so simple. We kept being told that. Donald Trump has more thoughts about the conflict. Take a look.
Remember, like as an example, in many cases, they're NATO countries. We're always there for NATO. We're helping them with Ukraine. As many, it's got an ocean in between us. Doesn't affect us, but we've helped them. And it'd be interesting to see what country wouldn't help us with a very small endeavor. Even long term, I think it's something that other countries should help us with.
How many other countries, Mr. President?
And again, remember this, about 7. We talked to you about 7.
About 7.
Just remember that it's something that we don't need, and these countries do need. Really, I'm demanding that these countries come in and protect their own territory, because it is their territory. It's the place from which they get their energy, and they should come and they should help us protect it. You could make the case that maybe we shouldn't even be there at all, because we don't need it. We have a lot of oil. We're the #1 producer anywhere in the world times 2.
I mean, I agree with him. We shouldn't be there. And I'm sure a lot of people, MAGA people, still clinging to the idea that this war might be brief. Are like, well, then why are we, dude? Like, you started it, man. Like, this is, so you started it. Also, we wouldn't have a problem with the Strait of Hormuz if we weren't there. Also, like, it's not any of these other countries' territory. It's not France's territory. It's not Germany's territory. It's not the UK's territory. It's not our territory. That's not how territory works. Just because it comes from there doesn't make it our territory. You make all of your clothing in China, it ain't ours. As a result of that, that's not how commerce or geography actually works. And so it seems like now we have the list: China, France, you'll see in this Truth Social message, Japan, South Korea, the UK, and others that are affected by this artificial constraint of ships blowing up in the Strait of Hormuz. It's not an artificial constraint. It's a constraint that is the predictable and predicted outcome of you launching a stupid ass war. And they didn't do it. They didn't want it to be done. Just like the vast majority of the American public didn't want it to be done. This is your war. And I will remind everyone, he's insulted the UK in this particular conflict. He starts crap with them all the time. He was saying in that video, and I'll go to Jayar after this, we always have NATO's back. No. Past presidents had NATO's back. You have spit in their face over and over for a decade now. You have talked constantly about how they don't even need to exist anymore. And you've helped in Ukraine. What the hell have you done in Ukraine? Don't claim credit for the stuff that other presidents have done just because you realize that you desperately need help. And not in the video, you said it's a small thing we need. It ain't a small thing. If it was a small thing, we'd just get it done with our $1 to $1.5 trillion a year military. It's a massive problem that we are not equipped to actually solve. Jayar, what do you make of it?
It's one of those things, bro. The only way you can actually pay attention or believe this guy is to not listen to him. He says one thing that's complete opposition to the next thing that he says. How is it that we've decimated the military? How is it that we've destroyed everything in Iran, but you need help still? And then also telling folks, as I think you mentioned, the people who are most affected directly in this area, you should defend your territory. It's your area. Well, why the hell are you in it, bro? Why are you over here doing the things that you're doing if it's someone else's responsibility to clean up your messes? I feel like all those people with Trump derangement syndrome, back when this guy first rolled down that escalator and we discovered and remembered that he's actually serious about this and went, wait, this guy's a failure as a businessman. This guy's hiding his finances. This guy's corrupt. This guy has like some kind of compromising material on him from everyone who he's ever crossed. Why would you put someone in place like that that's that vulnerable, that stupid, that greedy, that bloodthirsty? He gives us all these reasons why he's showing us in real ways right now how all those things are coming together. And he's this white supremacist who thinks everyone is beneath him and they expect him to then rule over them while they clean up his messes because his daddy and everyone else that he screwed over financially has cleaned up his messes his entire life. So by the way, this whole threat to NATO now, Donald Trump was threatening to leave NATO over the failed talks and absorption of Greenland. He was looking to leave NATO over money. He was looking to leave NATO because Big Macs were left on his table for too long and they got cold. I don't know. This guy's just always mad about something and he's willing to do something drastic in response to it. Threaten to do something drastic in response to it. That is until he finds his ass in this corner and now he needs some help from the people that he's alienated from tariffs to war to interactions and our general standing and credibility with any of these countries in general. I mean, I'm not holding my breath and thinking that they're not going to bail him out because they always do. Be ready to be prepared to be disappointed in these people that he's threatening.
Well, I'm certainly generally prepared to be disappointed. Yeah, and as you said, like he's talking about, we've destroyed 100% of their capability. Come on, bro. You know, except for their missiles and mines and bombs and all that stuff. So maybe 99% of their military then perhaps. But anyway, to end this, China's not helping. Iran is letting their ships through. Why would they help? France put out a tweet saying our posture is unchanged, defensive, protective, stop the scaremongering. And Germany said this is not NATO's war, which it's not. And NATO is a defensive alliance. We were not attacked by Iran, you attacked Iran. And it's not good enough to just, well, they were going to attack Israel. Israel's not a part of NATO, and no, they were not about to attack Israel. There is no reason that they should help with any of this. It is literally not their war. And the solution is for it to end. So the best thing they can do for their own domestic economic purposes is to not help us, to put pressure on us to end the war. Were they to help us, that would prolong the war, prolong the problem with the Strait of Hormuz. It would be stupid of them to help, although as you said, it's probably a good chance that they will actually do that. So let's move now to the media. The war in Iran, Donald Trump's war of choice there, is not going well no matter how much he bleats about it on Truth Social. So now, since he can't actually solve the problems in the war, and he can't solve the major problem with how we're running it, which is him and Pete Hegseth, he's just gonna go after the media for daring to report the facts. He posted this, saying that there was an intentionally misleading headline about tanker planes being struck. I guess they weren't struck, they're just like on fire or something. That's the problem that he has with it. So he's attacking them, the New York Times, the Wall Street Journal, other low-life papers. They want us to lose the war. Now, I don't think the newspapers have a stance on the war. I think the American people want us to be out of the war. But he says they're doing the opposite of the facts. They're sick and demented. They have no idea the damage they caused the United States of America. Fortunately, as proven by our great and conclusive election win in 2024, you remember, when he almost got 50% of the vote, then the people of our country understand what's happening far better than the fake news media. Because the fake news media wants the American people to turn against the war. But the people know better. That's why they're against the war and have been before day one, let alone on day one. So this is Trump just whining and whining that the war isn't going well and the media dares to let people know about it. And he has to pretend that he has more support amongst the people than he actually does. So he's teeing up, let's go after the media, let's do something about this. Obviously, that's what Brendan Carr, FCC chair, is for. So he puts out another long tweet. Please, can we normalize writing length tweets again? But the point of it is to say broadcasters should be worried about losing their licenses if they don't operate in the public interest. He uses the term public interest, but what he means is Donald Trump's propaganda purposes. That's what he means. And so if you broadcast stuff that we don't like, maybe you lose your broadcast licenses. Maybe there's no CNN, maybe there's no MS Now or whatever. That's what he's alleging right there. And he's been willing to take action like that in the past. And he spoke to CBS about this. That's media he feels comfortable talking to because they've already neutered it and turned it into pro-regime propaganda. He said, people have gotten used to the idea that, licenses are some sort of property right. And there's nothing you can do that can result in losing their license. I try to sort of help reorient people that know there is a public interest and broadcast is different. There is a public interest. The public are against this war and they want facts about it. They're not getting those facts from the administration, but thankfully the media has been doing an okay job in reporting what's actually been going on. I'll remind you, the Trump regime was freaking out. How dare you talk about the school being bombed? Caitlin Collins, get a smile on your face. Why are you talking about that? Oh, what do you know? We bombed them. We actually bombed them. And then he got mad that reporting came out saying that they'd underestimated the difficulty in securing the Strait of Hormuz. No, that's totally true. Multiple sources inside the administration. They're not mad about fake news. They're mad about accurate news. That has always been their main issue. And here's another message. I'm not going to read this entire thing. This would be my reading for the day right here. But just attacked, blah, blah, blah. They're doing AI, blah, blah, blah. I had a landslide. Again, remember, he got like 49.3% of the vote. That is a landslide, I think. Blah, 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 blah. And now he's saying, I'm happy that Brendan Carr is looking at the licenses of these unpatriotic news organizations. So we take another step in the direction of Hungary, another step in the direction of the Orbanization of the media. Just either his rich allies buy it and neuter it, or the politicians just destroy it and make it incapable of actually functioning. And you would think that Republicans would be against this. Again, remember, they love to pretend that they're for the First Amendment. We've got one, Ron Johnson. He said, I am a big supporter of the First Amendment. I do not like the heavy hand of government, no matter who is wielding it. And that's what we've got. Meanwhile, Donald Trump is self-congratulatory about what he's done to destroy the media. You can see here everything that they did. Many of these things, by the way, they've said they had no part in. We're not trying to get rid of Stephen Colbert. That's not us. We didn't do that. CNN new ownership. No, that's just, that would be nice. But, and then he meanwhile puts it in that little meme or whatever. So yeah, this is how they try to get rid of a free media. Now, they can't actually control the entire media, but they're trying pretty hard, Jayar. What do you think?
It's the standard approach for these authoritarians. So look, the main thing that's an opposition that works against this very thin propaganda that guys like this have, they're not even good at that part, is general information. So obviously they'll go after media groups, and of course, many folks in major mainstream medias will twist stories, not go in the right direction. But many times it's to help people like Donald Trump. So he still complains about it because he's that bad at this that even the protection version of the media, even always down to NBC News, the ABCs and the CBSs, they would generally try to respect him long enough and not even call him the liar that he's been since he was born. They protect him even in that realm, but he wants everything. It went so far as when Pete Hegseth at one of his war mongering press conferences, He said, oh man, the new ownership of CNN can't come soon enough. How openly blatant is your fascism when you'll tell these folks in front of the media? I want you guys to see this as I'm standing at the podium. You guys are trying to make my president look bad. I can't wait until our administration takes over the media and does this weird thing. It's like state-run media. I can't wait for it because I'm that bad at my job. So, as it's been fully established, I don't think anyone should be arguing anymore the fascist nature of this administration. Since we now know this, the next question is, how many more times are we gonna be begging, telling, demanding our representatives and anyone else that's in any kind of position of power to do something about the fact that we've got a fascist in the White House? Let's stop arguing about it and let's start asking for some impeachment proceedings. I said, I think last week, Representative Al Green was on this way ahead of time. It wasn't even ahead of time. It was like right on time, like the day this dummy came into office. We need more action because there's the fact that we're seeing it right in front of us. There shouldn't be discussions about that anymore. They're all doing it. They put together this whole graphic to make sure that we knew that what they're doing is exactly what we said they'd be doing.
Yeah, well, and that's what he gives to his base on True Social, who are probably a little antsy. Epstein, Forever Wars. I mean, you said you wouldn't do this stuff, but you're doing it. Oh, but you did get Colbert, and he makes me mad. So I guess it's okay that we'll be in a war and we'll spend trillions and all that. By the way, super fast before we move on to the other side of this. Really, where has Tulsi Gabbard been? I feel like somebody should check, like a wellness check or something. JD Vance also keeping a very low profile, notably not doing or saying anything to end the war, but clearly he doesn't want it hung around his neck, weighing him down as he goes in the next primary. So just everybody remember, he didn't try to stop it. There's no indication. But let's jump into something super weird. Donald Trump has put out yet another utterly bizarre fundraising email. It's bizarre in two ways this time. So first of all, if we bring this up, this is what he's sending to just a whole bunch of random poor schmucks that he's trying to fleece for money or whatever. So he's saying that you can get a spot on the National Security Briefing membership, which is ironic considering that he notably has never really read the National Security briefings. But wait, so you're saying if these people pay you, they get the National Security Briefing? I mean, that's definitely not what it is. They get nothing, they lose in the Willy Wonka way. But they're being told that they get access to the National Security Briefing stuff if they hand over money to Donald Trump. It's not like you didn't write it. It's not your novel, dude. How are you fundraising off of that? So that's insane. But arguably, maybe even weirder is the image that accompanies that. So that is Donald Trump at least previously referred to as the dignified transfer of American remains. Now, it's not as dignified, partially because Donald Trump's wearing the hat and also because he's there and he killed them, but he is raising money off of an image of dead soldiers being carted past him. This is not like money that goes towards the families, money that goes towards the military. It's his money, he will get it. And he will spend it on whatever nonsense he wants. And he is using, those are actual soldiers carting the coffin, and there's an actual dead soldier in that image in a coffin, and he is raising money off of that. Can you imagine if Barack Obama or Joe Biden had done that? They would have been grilled, and you know what? They would have earned it. But that is how little respect Donald Trump has for literally any of this, and how little respect he is expected to have from members of the MAGA movement who postured for decades that they cared about the military. It was sacred and so important. But now it's just a cheap thing, just raise some money off of it or whatever. And he doesn't like being asked about that, as you'll see in this clip. Yeah, I don't want any more from ABC because they're corrupt, not because they're talking about how I'm doing something utterly unacceptable. It's not that. I mean, I'm a big boy and I answer big boy questions. It's just that she's really corrupt and I don't like her. Let me turn to somebody fawning. Someone will ask me questions that I like. Notice, by the way, that he didn't see the email, which I actually buy. He probably didn't see the email. But was he mad at them? Was he mad at the person, the staffer, that implied that he was giving away the national security briefing in exchange for money, or that he was monetizing the image of a dead soldier for money? Didn't care about that, was moving on with his life. Really mad at the reporter though. So he can get mad, he can get worked up, but about the free press, not about monetizing the soldiers that he has killed. Man, that dude, you know he's feeling the pressure, by the way, in terms of what people think about him, when he takes every opportunity to pretend that his poll numbers are good and just keeps saying it over and over and over again. Oh my God, they love me. Oh, and the media love me, I get great numbers. Well, I guess, hypothetically up to 13 fewer votes for Trump coming from the military than there would have been a few weeks ago, since he's killing them, by the way. Never forget that. But anyway, yeah, no, he loves the military. Nobody does more for the military. The guy that has besmirched the very concept of military service, has insulted them, slagged them off for literally decades. Jayar, what do you think?
Imagine your loved one is in that coffin or in that transfer, and this guy uses an image of your deceased family member in there for his own purposes. Like, this is the type of stuff we don't break it down enough to really pay attention to. It's abhorrent, it's revolting, and it's offensive. But really, how do you think these folks feel? The same folks who he also claimed after he spoke to them, because he was trying to cleanse his own image yet again by claiming every one of them, every Gold Star family walked up to me and said, "Finish the job, sir. Finish the job." That's what he said. They said in his face, every one of them, because they all think exactly the same way. Or he lies his ass off and he says anything he wants to try and benefit himself off of these folks and the atrocities that they have to go through for now the rest of their life, because they've lost their loved one over his egotistical war. It's already been confirmed from John Kelly pointing out that he called them suckers and losers. We know that happened. We know that he had a problem being next to any amputees because it might make him look bad. We know that he still hasn't. I have this one last question, John. Where's that $1,776 check that he said he's giving to all the military? Remember that BS line that he gave us like a few months ago? And everyone was saying, oh man, he's at least gonna give the military some money. Really? And if they did get any of that money, they pulled it from some other aspect of military funding, because this guy is a liar and he thinks everyone is here for his benefit, including these folks that he's getting killed in his egotistical war.
Okay, wait, those are contradictory messages. Okay, oh, I see. Okay, we're gonna do one more section on this and then we're gonna break, just because we're gonna keep all the Iran stuff together. So that said, let's jump into this next video.
With every passing hour, we know, and we know they know, that the military capabilities of their evil regime are crumbling. They can barely communicate, let alone coordinate. They're confused and we know it. Our response, we will keep pressing. We will keep pushing, keep advancing, no quarter, no mercy for our enemies.
Yeah, there you have Pete Hegseth talking about how they in Iran can barely communicate. Well, I mean, they've been bombed into nothingness. I can understand why they'd have trouble communicating. Why are you having so much trouble communicating, Pete Hegseth? Why are you so confused? They've been bombed, but you seem more confused despite the fact that you've never been anywhere near the actual fighting. So there's a lot of issues with what he said there. The biggest one, of course, is no quarter. And you know why he said that? Because he heard it in a Call of Duty game at one point. It was in a movie, and I'm a tough guy, or at least I play one on TV. The issue is that no quarter actually has a definition. It means that we will take no prisoners. We literally will murder anyone who's still alive after our operations. We do not take them in as prisoners, we kill them. That's what it actually means. And if you were a real soldier, or let alone like, a high ranking officer, someone who thinks about and cares about this stuff, has researched, maybe taught about this stuff, you'd know that. But if you were just a guy who wants to look like you're a soldier and say that, stay frosty everybody, hoorah, say the catchphrases, then you just throw that out. And it wouldn't be a big deal to you because nothing matters. Life is just one martini after another, and we don't need to worry about the words that we say. But the issue is that we should worry about the words we say when we help to normalize things that could end up endangering or killing our soldiers. Now, I can make that case, and I have made that case before vis-a-vis Pete Hegseth, but I'm gonna instead turn to a right-winger, one who I don't generally have much positive to say about, but he disagrees with Hegseth on this. That is Greg Kelly of Newsmax, I think it is. He says Pete Hegseth should save his trash talk for his podcast bros. The reason professional warriors avoid unnecessary taunting of the enemy, it can come back and bite hard. And it's the pilots who fly over enemy territory at risk. I served with 4 pilots who got shot down and tortured, lose an engine, only 1 in the F-35. Thanks a lot, Lockheed Martin. And they'll be the ones to answer for Pete's rhetoric. Let General Kane talk more. Wait, does he mean Raisin Kane? Anyway, so that's the thing. They say this. And it's like, what? We'll kill. Well, no quarter. We'll murder you on the spot. So what? So what if we lose a boat and they rescue some people? What if a plane goes down? Should Iran do quarter or should they not? Would it be woke of them, Pete Hegseth, to not just slit the throat of our pilot? I mean, you don't have any room for wokeness in the military, right? I mean, you were the guy that ordered civilian planes. Oh, they weren't civilian planes. They were military planes that you disguised as civilian planes to bomb ships in the Caribbean, which is a complete war crime. Should they do that same thing? Should they take some of their jets and make it look like a civilian thing and then maybe crash it into Tel Aviv or something? Would it be woke of them to avoid doing that? Why do you expect them to abide by international norms and laws when it comes to warfare that we don't abide by, even in rhetoric, let alone in fact? And so I like that Greg Kelly is at least speaking out against them there. But this is just, Pete Hegseth is very much in line with the rest of the administration that is just masturbating constantly about the devastation of Iran, fantasizing about going even further, slaughtering every man, woman, and child there. Jayar, thoughts?
Somehow this is supposed to promote the war or something, or get people on board to promote more war crimes. As you pointed out, from back, if they get away with things like the killing of those folks in whatever random boats they decide to blow up, they're emboldened to do it more. I always hear Republicans talk about that. If you don't punish these folks, if you don't put them in prison, if you don't lock them up, they're gonna be emboldened to do more crimes. That's why they're doing more of these crimes. But by the way, also Hegseth and them were hell bent on punishing those elected Democrats that said in that video to service members, you don't have, in fact, it's your duty to not follow illegal orders, because here's all these illegal orders. Isn't that weird how that works? But they were asking and begging, what illegal orders are you talking about? The illegal orders that are bound to come down, which already were at the time, bound to come down from this administration. And now, as he has press conferences, puffing his chest out, acting like he's a tough guy, what he's doing is promoting, oddly, illegal orders and then getting mad at them, wanting Mark Kelly to be arrested, or whatever it is they're trying to do to him, because they were afraid of him. He's a veteran with principles, and Pete Hegseth doesn't know what that looks like. So he's afraid of that guy because he can't compete in those realms. But also, they repeatedly talk about killing people, killing folks and killing people. How Iranians apparently are the only ones who do these things as we promote the murder of folks, which it reminded me. Where's that investigation to finish off this whole thing about the bombing of that children's school in Iran? Since every time it's brought up, they use the same propaganda line. I just want to reiterate, the United States of America doesn't kill civilians. Iran kills civilians. The United States of America does not kill civilians. We're gonna get to the bottom of this investigation. I assume we're gonna get that investigation at the same time the veterans are gonna get their $1,776 checks. Never.
The day after you get your doggy check, by the way. The day after Trump's healthcare plan will come out. Final point, I'll just mention this, how important this leadership is, like who is in charge. So we've talked about how Pete Hegseth wiped out basically all the jobs in the military that were concerned with minimizing civilian casualties. There were opponents of that move at the time, including Admiral Christopher Grady, former vice chair of the Joint Chiefs, argued that the staff were critical to preventing risks to civilian populations before US strikes, argued that they should not be cut. Hegseth, the talk show host, he knew better. He reduced the number of employees in one office working on that from 200 to less than 40. And what do you know? We slaughtered a bunch of little girls and probably inspired a generation of Iranians to hate our goddamn guts. So it kind of matters who's actually in charge. Okay, we're gonna take a short break. Lots more to get to after this. Okay, everybody, thank you for being here. By the way, I saw some comments about my new shirt. It's from Quince. We do podcast ads for Quince. I'm a big fan of them. I bought a bunch of these extra shirts.
Quince.
But anyway, they're not like a YouTube sponsor or whatever, but I just do actually like the shirts. So anyway, yes, it's an online clothing place. Let's see, IDK anymore says, John has made the full golf transition with his new shirt and look. Next show will be Tea Time with John 9-Iron Iadarola, where he tells the weather for the greens. That's very funny. Brett and Jordan and Brett's brother and I played yesterday, and it was a beautiful golf course, and I played okay, not great.
You got to be improving it. So you got to be getting better at least.
I think I am improving. It was a tough course. Like every one of the greens was like at this angle and lumpy. It was very hard, but it was a beautiful course. Anyway, Hot Sauce Dragon says they did no prep work for this war and it shows. I guess they assumed they didn't need to. I mean, I guess Israel had done all the prep, right? They've been preparing for it for literally decades. Surely they considered all these consequences. Boomer Dragon Cat says, at this point, it's our fault. We collectively have allowed the world to be tortured by this man for 10 years. In a certain sense, I agree with you, Boomer Dragon Cat. Katie says, the way Trump makes Bush look okay in retrospect is so embarrassing for him and all of us. Agreed. CD North Dad sent a membership over on YouTube. Super nice of you, thank you. Oh, Cursign FP says in a super chat, hey, John and Jayar, how is Sprocket? I was thinking about Sprocket recently.
It's weird. I was just talking and trying to gauge again how old Sprocket. I think he's around 14 now. The old man is doing great, except when he has to, avoid the 110, 12, 15 pound German Shepherd that likes to play.
Oh,
he's
yeah.
Like, listen, bro, I can't play with you. You're gonna kill me.
Sprocket likes to just sit on the couch, literally like a human, like this against the back thing. He doesn't want to.
I was folding laundry like a couple weeks ago, and I had some spilled on the side of the bed, and I didn't know where he was, and some fell off, and he was under it, and I did not know he was there. He would not move. Wouldn't move.
The message goes on to say, what do you think about the speculation of Bibi getting murked? I generally do not. From Saturday morning to Sunday afternoon, I don't follow the news super closely. So especially stuff like that, that's not like official news, it's stuff people are speculating on. I wasn't really following that in person. It would have been highly unlikely. It would have been deeply cosmically ironic, I suppose, if this guy who'd been fighting for this invasion for decades and decades finally gets it and he were to die. It would be like in the same way that like Trump getting COVID, and if he had died from COVID, would have been like deeply ironic considering, all of what they had done while in charge. But no, it didn't happen. And obviously, what's up?
Go ahead, I'm sorry, finish, I'm sorry.
I was gonna say, unlike Donald Trump and Benjamin Netanyahu, do not believe that we should be assassinating world leaders. That's a thing they want and do constantly. They actually kill world leaders. I don't believe that world leaders should be killed. I actually generally don't want anyone to be killed, so I guess I'm naive. Sorry, what were you gonna say?
I wasn't buying it either. There's this video that came out of Benjamin Netanyahu in front of a coffee shop thing, and all I'm saying is I saw some indications of AI. That does not mean he's dead. It just means there was some AI videos out there. So you don't have to necessarily connect those two things, but the one thing I noticed, there's AI videos out of Benjamin Netanyahu, and one in that coffee shop. If you guys want to know the moment, he sticks his hand in his jacket pocket. Instead of his hand going into his pocket moves to his hand. It's just small things.
Like it was hungry or something? That is strange. Yeah, I don't know. If you're just joining us now, please hit the like button as we jump into more news. Donald Trump is clearly not taking his tariff loss at the SCOTUS very well because he decided seemingly randomly to go off on an extended screed about it on Truth Social. And I'm not gonna read the entire thing, but I like the beginning because it's so pathetic. He says, the decision that mattered most to me was tariffs. The court knew where I stood, how badly I wanted this capital V victory for our country, and instead decided to potentially give away trillions of dollars to countries and companies who've been taking advantage of the United States for decades. And it goes on and on and on. Him basically telling a bunch of lies about what tariffs are and what authority he actually has. He then thanks the 3 justices who are even more like just explicitly like Trump can do whatever he wants than the others, that being Alito, Thomas, and Kavanaugh, because they wanted him to, look, forget all that stuff about about the Congress being in charge of tariffs. I just want Trump to do it. And then he talks about how, but don't worry, we're not gonna give back all that money to the foreign countries. And I believe him there. I don't think we are, because they didn't pay it. We don't need to reimburse them, because they don't pay the tariffs. We do, you jackass. Stop lying to us about the damn tariffs. But anyway, he assures us that despite all of his crying, just constant crying on social media, that he's still gonna do all the same tariffs anyway. The issue for him is that there's other legal hurdles potentially coming for the tariffs. Not just the SCOTUS saying that he can't do it, but you have Democratic attorneys general, governors, 24 states, as well as libertarians. They're coming together. One libertarian group representing 2 small businesses, they've filed legal briefs asking a federal trade court to strike down the new 10% tariffs that Trump imposed after the SCOTUS ruling, where he basically just took the exact thing that he'd already done and said, well, I'm doing it in a different way or whatever. They want those struck down, and it feels like the SCOTUS should similarly strike them down. We'll see. And in terms of what people think about it, again, he has been trying, and I think failing, to deceive people about the nature of these tariffs. Thankfully, people have seen through it, and they continue to. 7 in 10 Americans say that Donald Trump's tariffs have led to them paying higher prices. You can see some partisan effect in this chart. Democrats, 77% say that they're paying higher prices. Independents and Republicans are slightly less likely to say that. Now, it is possible that these Republicans are just more wealthy and don't care so much, or they're just blind to it. It isn't that they don't understand how tariffs work. It's just that they literally refuse to see the fact that they're paying more. The issue is that regardless of whether you think you're paying higher prices, you are paying higher prices. That's how inflation actually works. And in terms of where they're seeing it, 57% say that the tariffs have negatively affected grocery prices, which they have, but don't forget that also his immigration policy has negatively affected grocery prices in the same way that it's affected housing prices. He sucks on tariffs, but never forget that he sucks in a lot of other ways too. And you can see here in terms of how they evaluate whether tariffs have helped to bring back manufacturing jobs, which is one of the arguments for it. 32% say that they haven't and they don't expect them to. A smaller share believe that they might possibly bring manufacturing jobs in the future, but that's less than 1 in 5. There doesn't seem to be a lot of hope in that area. Jayar, what do you make of the tariffs?
It's crazy. These polls, I've been tripping on these polls. How is there a poll about whether or not things are more expensive? It's something that can be measured. Whether or not you believe it or not is something else. And that's when we can start putting you in the loony bin of like, yo, if you don't believe that beef prices, I'm not lying to you, bro, those little, those rolls of like ground beef, when they package them differently, $9. $9 I saw just yesterday, by the way. You can believe that things aren't more expensive, but how is there a poll that says either things are expensive or not expensive? This is like something that's obviously measured. So as we see it, or as these things continue to come down, and if people don't believe it, or they see the prices go up and they don't believe that tariffs are the reason for them, then there's a very simple response left. What is it? And why is it okay that Donald Trump's policies have ushered these things in? Because this guy's been in office and things have been going worse. People have lost their jobs. We've lost more farms than I think they ever have in a years-long period before. And as people are committing suicide, these farmers in many cases, and some of them voted for his dumb ass, as we keep seeing it, are we gonna recognize and maybe go, maybe this consistent stream of lies that this guy tells every day hasn't resulted in anything positive that he said it would, and we should stop believing that it then will later.
Yeah,
maybe I'm floating a couple ideas.
I have that same frustration about, and I say it, the polling people on a fact or whatever. But that's it. I do understand that it still does. We want to know if people are accepting reality. So it's really, that's what it is. It's like, are you paying attention? Do you see what's happening? And thankfully, some people are. Okay, with that said, we do have to take our second break. Lots to get to after this. Okay, before we jump into more comments and all that, Jayar, just out of curiosity, were you following the Oscars at all?
I saw none of it. I was on a baseball field all weekend. No, I don't watch enough movies. I literally just watched Sinners last night for the first time.
Well, skipping the Oscars to watch a good movie, I think makes sense. What did you think of it?
I'm glad that I don't pay attention to many things, because apparently there were spoilers, and I knew zero about this film.
Oh,
Nothing.
you didn't know about the
Made
twist?
it so much better. Because I made sure, I was like, it got to the point, and I forget everything anyway. So I was like, at least even if I had learned or heard something, I didn't remember any of it. I didn't remember who was in it, bro. It was like that bad.
You knew that Michael B. Jordan was in it.
I forgot until it started.
Oh my God, that's crazy. Okay, man, you really weren't paying attention. I would have loved to have not known the twist. That would have been great, but I still very much enjoyed it. I was glad that he won the Oscar just because I watched.
Won.
He did for Best Actor. I watched like the first 15, 20 minutes of Marty Supreme, and I was just like, I don't like this. I don't want to see this. And then the weird stuff that came out with Timothy, I was like, don't give it to him, please. First of all, if you're not even gonna nominate Jesse Plemons for Begonia, like I would be willing. I don't even like Leonardo DiCaprio, but he was really good in One Battle After Another. So I was glad that it went to Michael B. Jordan.
Heard of none of these movies nor actors involved in them. None of them.
They're some of the biggest movies of the last year.
I
also,
agree.
Can I say something? This would probably make me seem stupid or whatever. Maybe everybody disagrees, and I apologize. Is Timothy Chalamet reminding anyone else of Shia LaBeouf? Like in terms of the path they're taking and some of the comments they're making. I'm not saying he's doing the weird stunts that Shia LaBeouf did, but I feel like he's on a similar trajectory or whatever. But anyway, Emma Stone is also very good in Begonia. It's unfortunate that she didn't win, but I don't know. They're all good. I don't know. I didn't see Hamnet, so I don't know what was going on with that. Anyway, with that said, let's see what's going on with Twitch. Maybe we can talk about movies more later on. Dolores in Darkness, 70 months on Twitch. Thank you for that. Car94XX, 51 months. Thank you. Darth Hefe, 21 months, says Los Grande Americanos collide tonight on Raw. Yeah, I'm sure they will. I'm really at a low point in my interest in WWE right now. There's just, I don't know, there's not a lot that's really drawing me in. We'll see. Weird. I'll watch WrestleMania, but I don't know.
It's weird. My kid is more excited than he has been in recent years about this. Because of the new blood, the new folks coming in, Obafemi, he's really excited about that guy.
I know, but it doesn't seem like he's doing much. That's the thing. Like,
he's
I
there
am
every
excited.
time.
I know. Okay, well, okay, fine.
Also,
no,
the toxic
Williams.
The toxic masculinity guy.
Williams. I haven't actually seen him. Danhausen's interesting. I don't know. I'm glad that Becky Lynch is doing some stuff, but I feel like, I don't know, they had this great period of some of that stuff around the IC belt, and there doesn't really, the women's championships, I'm not really interested in either of those sides.
I can see that.
So I don't know. We'll see. I should probably end on this because it's the most important message that anyone will ever send in. Chadomatic, 19 months on Twitch, says, John looks so cute. Thank you. I'm glad people are acknowledging it. Anyway, CD Northstock Dad says, we live in the worst timeline. It does feel that way. Neil says in a super chat, no other president has trampled the Constitution more than our felonious president. Most defend and protect it, as that's what they say, swear an oath to. I mean, plenty have done stuff that I think is illegal or unconstitutional, including presidents I like Barack Obama. But that said, like, you can come up with less than 1 week's worth of Donald Trump across the entirety of their presidency. That's the pace, as well as the severity of the crimes and the unconstitutional acts that they're taking. Okay, we'll get to more comments when we can, but first, more news. I'm gonna let you know about one of our sponsorships, but before I do that, can I just say I think we should advance to D and save C for, is that possible? We'll do D and E. Okay, sorry. Anyway, I wanted to let you know about a partnership that TYT has been doing with Noble Mobile, the only wireless plan that pays you to use your phone less. You can switch to Noble's Noble plan and get unlimited data for only $50 a month, potentially even less once you get cashback credit to your account for data that you don't use. And if you'd like more details about that, you can go to tyt.com/switch. Okay, with that said, let's jump to a couple more fascinating stories. I love the way that producer Mike intro this, then the doc. Jeanine Pirro got unbelievably angry, fired up, after a reporter pointed out that her failures at the DOJ are not just like excessive, they're actually historic. And I'm gonna give you some stats that are fascinating. But first, we're gonna play a clip for you, and you're not gonna be able to hear the question that's asked of her in the clip. So just let me let you know that she's being asked about the fact that she has an extremely low conviction rate for the cases that she investigates. And here is her response.
Oh, cut it out. Do you know how many convictions we've got? Cut it out. You're in one lane. We have cleaned up this city. Oh, yeah, historic, really? I'll tell you what's historic. What's historic is that I prosecute everything other than 10% of the cases, where the United States attorney before me didn't prosecute 67% of the cases. That's what's historic. I'm willing to take a not guilty. I'm willing to take a no true bill, because I'll take all the crimes and put them in. Thank you.
Thank you. That's all the time we have.
First of all, cut it out. That's how she starts. So yeah, so the issue isn't that she sucks, or like, honestly, like I'm always down to insult Jeanine Pirro. I think I've made that clear. But in this particular case, the issue with Jeanine Pirro is that she's just being told by the Trump administration, here is a long list of our political opponents that haven't committed any crimes, but like, could you just give it the old Pirro try? Investigate them, see if you can lock them up. And then it turns out, well, you can't actually lock them up if they haven't committed any crimes. So the conviction rate drops lower and lower and lower. But she has to pretend that it's not that. It's not that she's one of the key weapons in the weaponization of the DOJ. It's just that they didn't used to investigate anything or charge them or whatever. But here's the issue. Let's talk about those historic numbers. So Magistrate Judge Jayar Jackson had her clerks run the numbers. So from 2014 to 2024, so the decade sort of leading up to the Trump administration, there were 4,000 cases charged by complaint. And in it, the government moved to dismiss less than 20 defendants' cases. In the last 8 weeks, the government has charged 95 cases by criminal complaint. And in that time, the government has moved to dismiss 20 defendants. The same thing, 1 decade, 2 months, same failure rate. That is going from a 0.5% dismissal rate to a 21% dismissal rate. And it's just because she tries so hard. That's what it is. But let's talk about just one example of the sort of issues she's facing. So a court has now blocked the DOJ's subpoenas of the Federal Reserve. Remember, she was trying to go after the Fed and the Fed governors. Why? Because they've committed a bunch of crimes? No, because Donald Trump wants them to. He wants to put pressure on the Fed to try to get them to like surrender, lower the interest rates or whatever, because that's his goal for short term. He thinks it'll juice the economy. It might do tons of damage long term, but it might be beneficial in the short term. That's what they're doing. And by the way, the judge that investigated, Judge Boasberg, said that the investigation of Powell, the main target of that investigation, was utterly without evidence and was in fact meant to influence interest rates. And it's not going forward because there was no actual crime. Remember, she also, about a month ago, had her investigations, the charge that she had done against the Democrats who participated in that don't follow illegal orders thing, that was also vacated. You could have had a lower failure rate on these if you stopped doing absolute bullcrap investigations, but she can't stop because that's why she's in this position in the first place. Jayar, what do you think?
I always wondered, I said, Jeanine Pirro. So Donald Trump watched her on the 5 embarrass herself most every day and get talked down with the most simplest rebuttals and pushbacks on her ridiculous arguments and said, that's my person. I'm gonna put her in place to go after folks and somehow come up with some convictions of all my political enemies. Bro, I mean, I assume she took the job same reason Pete Hegseth did. They're empty-minded and they're like, I'll do whatever you tell me. I'll drop to a knee. I'll wear shoes on my knees so I can make sure that I move around as quickly and easily as possible to kiss your ass. And as we see this happen, when is the firing gonna come? I thought these are performance-based positions. I thought we'd have gotten away from those DEI positions that always get in unqualified people who don't get the job done. That is until we get this lady in here doing things like screaming at the media. It's not the first time either. Every time I see her talking to anyone that's asking her questions, it could be mild, it could be as offensive as her bad success rate. But either way, she's screaming and running off to, I guess, go hit the bottle. This is crazy that that's her reputation. I don't even know much about as far as her drinking tendencies, but that appears to be what's sticking with people.
Yeah, exactly. No, it's a failure, and I'm good. I'm glad. The fact that she's being overridden by these judges, that's one of the few breaks that we have on all the insane stuff that's going on. Okay, but with that said, we have a few minutes left, and this is just a fascinating story that we have to talk about. Let's jump into it. Jake Lang, who you might remember from video displays like that, where he kicked with male legs, that anti-ICE thing that veterans have put up. He's made a name for himself and also a fool out of himself by displays like that, kicking over things and putting together groups of weirdos to try to get like Zoran Mamdani to pay attention to him or whatever. Well, he's back in the news, and it's not for a protest, and it's not for committing a felony on tape like we just showed you in the B-roll. No, it's over his apparent DM conversations with a girl who is believed to have been 15 years old, where he seems just a little bit too into that young girl. So here are some of the leaked DMs. He had apparently messaged the girl saying, "You coming to my next protest in Texas?" She says, "I can if you want me to." He says, "Yes, what's your number?" She expressed an interest in only communicating by text. I am speculating here, but I believe it is because this is not actually a real young girl. It's a guy pretending to be one, and it's a lot easier to do that over DMs. He says, "I have too many DMs, text only, sweetie." See, she's a sweetie. He doesn't know her, but he's seen the photos, sees a young girl, calls her sweetie. Now you'll notice he has too many DMs to communicate via DM, but he is going to continue to do so because he doesn't have too many DMs. He was just trying to exercise some control over the interaction. So he says at some point, they keep talking blah, 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 blah. He says, "What did your mom say?" Smiley face, smiley face. She says, "How old are you, by the way? I'll ask tomorrow." He says, "I just turned 30, honey." Then he says, "Why are you up so late, young lady?" So she's sweetie, honey, and young lady in the span of very little time. He says, "Nice," and she says, "Nice," and I don't know, I'd be a night owl. I might be too young for you, LOL. Well, that's concerning. He says, "How old are you, baby?" So she's honey, baby, sweetie, young lady. Pick a lane, man. Unless you're under 18, I don't care, haha. She says, "I'm 15. And interestingly, that's not the end of the conversation. She sends a photo, and to that he says, "When do you turn 16?" Which seems irrelevant because after she turns 16, you know what she'll be? 16, which doesn't seem like enough. She says in 6 months, so she's very much a 15-year-old. I won't get you in trouble if that's what you're worried about. I can keep a secret. And then she puts a smiley face. Now, look, this is coming off like this is a person who is trying to entrap him into expressing interest in a 15-year-old. And that seems fairly obvious to everyone except for him, I guess, because he responds, "What state do you live in? I can't see you till you're 16. She says, "Arizona, I just moved here, so blah, 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 blah." That's the relevant part of the conversation right there. Not great, by the way. It's a 16-year-old that he's like aiming for in the future. Still very interested in the 15-year-old, interestingly. Now, he eventually responds to all of this, putting out this True Social, Twitter, I get them mixed up like most people do. Twitter message saying, "Text between Alex Rosen and myself this morning. Nice fake setup, groypers, but I wouldn't even allow this person to attend my protest until they were 16. Nothing else was discussed except going to a protest. Obvious phishing scam that my team caught right away and deterred." Okay, so he wasn't interested, except that he totally kept talking to her after she said that she was 15. And not just about going, he says, "I can't wait to see you when you're 16. So, okay, but that said, he did communicate with Alex Rosen. So let's dig into those messages and see if it makes him look better in hindsight. So Alex says, "Were those messages real?" I'm just asking before anything. He then talks about how Nick Fuentes went on a rant about him. They tried to fish him. "My lawyers are gathering everything now and preparing to strike back hard." Yes, he's got a team and he's got lawyers, whatever. So Alex says, "Bet. Well, were those texts you being for real or just effing around?" He says, "My team, who does my DMs," implying that it wasn't him. "My team from out of the country suspected I was being fished. I confirmed it by asking their age and telling them the legal boundaries." I guess that was the "I can't wait to see you when you're 16. Never spoke to them again after that. Which, by the way, the communications keep going. What are you talking about? Also, I have a team. It wasn't me, but they go to a different high school. They're out of the country, so you can't talk to them or anything, but it probably wasn't me. Then he says, by the way, I confirmed it by asking their age. Wait, I thought it was your team. What do you mean you confirmed it? Was it your team or was it you? And I cut off communication, except that he didn't. So Alex says, makes sense. And what do you mean fished? He says they were talking about coming to my protests and then switched trying to rope the conversation to something illegal, and we pulled the plug. You did not pull the plug. You checked to see when she would be 16. Again, this has no real bearing, like no real relationship with the text that we already saw. I told them I needed women for my burqa and bikini march that was planned for February, blah, 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 blah. Alex says, what made us refer to this girl as honey and baby? He says, never once was there a pet name used after this Fisher identified their age. By the way, nothing that we've seen lines up with a phishing scam. It seems like they might have been trying to rope him into expressing sexual interest in a 15-year-old, which by the way, they appear to have succeeded in that, but not phishing as we would define it. And then not using the names after you identify their age. I mean, I guess, but it wasn't like it was game over at that point. You weren't disinterested when you found out that the person was 15. You just started planning. You wanted to put something in your calendar for when you could sleep with a 16-year-old girl. That's what we appear to have seen. Then Alex, and I'll end on this, says, can you send me the full chats from your end? I'd like to see what was said after her age from her end. And then he says, the chat was cleared, but I know for a fact that the text message that was sent was the one that said, I can't see you. The full text thread has been posted. So it's cleared, except it's posted. I can't show you the actual raw thing. I can only point you to what I have willingly posted. And maybe that is all of it, JR. But the entire thing seems wildly suspicious. What do you think?
I feel like this isn't a very good flex. Why would this be your response? Like, bro, I asked her when she's gonna be 16. By the way, I looked it up, Arizona state of consent. I assumed he was jazzed about Arizona, must be at 16, because that makes it better. It's 18, so maybe that's when he gave up? Or maybe he was like, I'll wait 2 more years. I don't really know the plan that was next, but it's actually more depressing that I'm looking at this map and seeing how many light green indications of states actually have a 16 age as consent, which I guess he's hoping for that. Maybe he's like, move to Oklahoma. Is Oklahoma, is it on the list? Maybe it is. It is, there it is. Oklahoma, maybe move there next. It's not too far away. Then I can come see you. Well, bro, it's time to just run away. Kick over some more ice sculptures. Maybe stop talking, because I don't know why this could get dragged out this long and he thinks he's gonna be on the winning end of this. That is, except he's paying attention to the fact that we allow all these other pedophiles to keep doing their thing in broad daylight.
Yeah, I'll end on this. The final result of these messages, assuming they're authentic, and he's not really disputing the messages, he's just disputing what he supposedly said that isn't in the messages, is gross. But I also want to be very clear, this is speculation. If the laws did not require them to be 16, do you think he would have had a problem with it? Does anyone? I mean, he's only waiting until literally the day he thinks the age of consent is. So again, like this is the movement. Almost all the guys end up doing this sort of thing. They either have weird content on their computers or they're messaging a young girl or whatever. Nobody's shocked by this, man. It's still allegations at this point. We'll see if it goes beyond that. But this guy is utterly grotesque now in basically every way. We already knew about a bunch, and this completes the set. Okay, that's the end of the first hour. Thank you everybody for being here. We do have a lot more to come in the aftermath though. So if you're watching live on YouTube or on Twitch, stick around, more to come after this. Welcome back to the Aftermath, one and all with John and Jayar. We've got the news coming soon, but first, don't forget about our sponsor, Noble Mobile. Save money by using your phone less and get unlimited data for just $50 a month at tyt.com/switch. Let's jump right back into it.
We would really appreciate you not sending us a bunch of crazy Democrats in November, so please don't do that.
Yeah, I bet they would appreciate that. They don't want those crazy Democrats. The spots are already listed for crazy Republicans, and I can't wait to see who they end up putting forward in these primaries. But they're not getting confident as time goes on. They seem more and more worried. Not JD Vance, he'll lie like he always does. But when you talk to the actual Republicans who would love to maintain control and power in the Senate and the House, they're getting increasingly worried. Senator Kevin Cramer, Republican of North Dakota, said, "I'm glad I'm not on the ballot." That's in North Dakota. He's glad he's not on the ballot. He said in an interview that was how he felt about the November elections. Josh Hawley says energy prices are high. Everything's high. He added that Republicans should, quote, take some votes to lower the costs. He's literally saying, let's do something, like literally anything right now. Now, the Senate did pass a bill recently. It's a major housing bill that Elizabeth Warren was involved in, but there's currently no reason to believe that it's actually going to pass the House. If it were to, it could do some work to lower the cost of housing. Probably not by the midterms. This is a more long-term thing, but it would at least be something they could campaign on. But that said, it's going to be hard for the House to actually pass it. It's gonna be hard for Mike Johnson to pass it because Donald Trump, Scott Bessent, they've already said they don't want housing to become less expensive. So they're really between a rock and a corrupt place there. Now, other Republican senators are warning that the party does need to do at least something to get the price down, and that's gonna be difficult. Trump isn't thinking about this sort of thing. Not only is he doubling down on his tariffs, not only did he start the war in Iran, both of which are gonna drive up the cost of prices, but in terms of actually passing something to do something about prices, he's already said he's not passing anything or signing anything until the SAVE Act is passed. He said that until that's done, they're not doing literally anything. And Senate Majority Leader John Thune, he said he thinks that the election is going to be about the economy, and that's why I think we're focused on that. But the president, as of right now, isn't. So they desperately need to do something to maintain their majorities. But first of all, it's going to be difficult with the House being as crazy as it is. And also, Trump probably won't sign it regardless, JR. What do you think about their ability to dig themselves out of this hole before the midterms?
Well, they're not really trying to, right? Like their ability to do it would be based on seeing some kind of effort. The effort here is to continue to try, I guess, to fool people into thinking that everything is fine. I mean, the people who say stuff about how worried they are about their potential races, they can't say it too loudly because then Donald Trump will post something on Truth Social about how much he hates them and they're a rhino or something weird like that. The thing is they're so far from trying to convince anyone of any kind of agenda that is actually beneficial for Americans. They just don't try because why would that make any sense? Everything Donald Trump says is anti what they would be claiming is helpful to them. I think, and I'm trying to figure out which one of the mechanisms that they're gonna try and put in place. The SAVE Act is the one that they're hoping is the only one they have to try and like force. But then after that comes, Steve Bannon's suggestions of having ICE and DHS people at polling locations, threatening more folks with any kind of bodily harm if they vote the wrong way or something. I'm not sure which kind of plans these guys all have, but the main thing is probably forcefully hoping that they're gonna create enough chaos in the country that they can say it's out of control here. It's completely out of control. We can't do anything about this. Because what kind of work is there really being done? If you're following out everything Donald Trump says and don't care what it is and how bad it is, what is your plan? Like not enough people ask that, and I think people are just assumed at this point there is none. They know they're gonna lose.
Yeah, it looks like that.
It's not gonna happen.
Let's talk about one thing they're doing to potentially raise the chances that they lose. At the same exact time that many establishment Republicans are pushing Trump to endorse John Cornyn in the Texas Senate race to give them the best chance possible of beating James Tallarico, some of the most out and out MAGA people are pushing him to do the exact opposite because they want Ken Paxton, even though polling says that he has a lower chance of actually beating Tallarico. And so Laura Loomer, you can always count on her to say the craziest thing possible. She said that if he endorses John Cornyn, the base would likely stay home during the midterms. Now, she's using the word base to mean the crazies in the base. A lot of Republicans are worried that like most Texas Republicans would be more comfortable voting for John Cornyn. He did get more votes in the primary, notably. But Laura Loomer believes that Paxton's the way to go. Steve Bannon said the Texas Senate race is, quote, bigger than Cornyn versus Paxton, bigger than Bush versus Trump, bigger than establishment versus grassroots. It's this and more. It's MAGA versus everything they hate, everything that has screwed their country, every wrong they believe needs to be righted and righted now. And I'm gonna say, I've been following this race for some time. We've done a lot of reporting on it. And Ken Paxton sucks in a lot of ways. He's an alleged adulterer, he's corrupt. That's the sort of stuff that generally people like Steve Bannon do like. It makes them very comfy, I get that. I don't actually understand why they care so much about Ken Paxton specifically, especially when it could potentially imperil that seat for them. I mean, they're willing to risk not just a Democrat winning a Senate race in Texas, which would be monumental. That would be really bad for them, hypothetically. Not like just symbolically, not just for the numbers in the Senate, but the fact that it's Texas, but also that it would be James Tallarico doing that. I mean, the dude already is like an up and like a rising star in the Democratic Party. If he were to flip that seat, he would be one of the biggest names in the party. And they are potentially handing that over to progressive Democrats, all for Ken Paxton, a guy who not only is corrupt, but gets caught in it, who not only is an adulterer, but has actually suffered relationship consequences for it. And I don't understand what the obsession is, Jayar. What do you make of this race?
With Paxton, right?
Yeah, with Paxton versus Cornyn.
I think I've got, I mean, their obsession with wanting Paxton specifically, I guess also Laura Loomer wanting Paxton. It goes with the mold, he fits with the rest of them. He picked the literal worst of the worst. It's bad enough it'd be John Cornyn, but then if it's Paxton, we get a worse guy who's more of an ass kisser, who's more of a yes man. Yo, listen, we've got the Pam Bondis, the Pete Hegseths, the Stephen Millers, the Marco Rubios of the world. Why wouldn't they add Paxton? He's just as bad. They only need is someone who probably has enough baggage, enough stupidity, and not enough guts to do any and everything that this guy tells him to do. That is the only requirement. Especially he's got bad, skeletons in his closet. They can manipulate and use that stuff. This is perfect. Ken Paxton is excellent for MAGA.
Yeah, well, I'll end on this. I don't want to give bad news to Laura Loomer or whatever, but it looks like Donald Trump's plea for Cornyn to sign on to getting rid of the filibuster to pass the SAVE Act was successful. Cornyn did flip on that. We'll see if it actually gets passed. I don't know if the endorsement is contingent on his position or on the actual passage, but Donald Trump has already indicated that he's perfectly happy to endorse John Cornyn if he gets what he wants out of it. Feel like Laura Loomer could acknowledge that. Maybe your guy isn't, I don't want to say principled in the way you think. I don't think it's a principle, but whatever. He doesn't have that particular brand of insanity that you're exercising right here. Okay, with that said, we're gonna have more bad news for the Republicans on tomorrow's show when it comes to youth voters. But I think first, let's switch things up. Let's talk about some news that generally doesn't get covered on the show and some figures that we haven't talked about in some time. What some are calling America's next top fascist, that's Tricia McLaughlin, who we've quoted many times on the show before, is having a pretty tough time getting a new gig after she was tossed out of the Trump administration just a little bit before. Now, she had previously been a spokesperson for the DHS and could always be counted on to say the worst, most trollish, immature, just generally beneath us thing you can imagine. And she did that for a reason, because that's what you do in those positions to prove your loyalty and to get ahead in the MAGA movement. Well, she's now been yeeted out of DHS and she needs to land somewhere. We'll get to the trouble she's having, but first a little reminder of who she actually was in that former position. Take a look.
What will happen with Don Lemon?
Well, Homeland Security is going to enforce the law without fear or favor, whether you be a journalist or self-proclaimed journalist, or you just be another one of those rioters in St. Paul. We've also seen, a nexus of terrorism there as far as this Somali population and others in these communities giving money to terrorist cells outside of our country. There's ICE hysteria that we're seeing here. I think of the individual, she was killed last week by an illegal alien. I don't think that we would be seeing any protests. They will deploy tear gas to control that crowd as a method to make sure that the public is safe.
I see people in the chat are speculating that that's not actually Tricia McLaughlin, that is AI, but I'm not sure that there's actually a difference here. That is Carolyn Leavitt's little sister, but with even less life and soul left in her eyes. She didn't seem to have any reaction to anything. There was nothing going on in there. And I guess that's kind of a prerequisite for the job. But regardless, she is in trouble now. So she left DHS a little bit before Kristi Noem was fired. So she apparently reached out to Fox about joining the network as a contributor, which I could see her doing that. She's awful, she's blonde, it seems like a perfect fit. The 31-year-old apparently has also approached Newsmax and Real America's Voice, which means that she's digging a little bit, though she has not received a formal offer from any of the networks. Now, when contacted by the Daily Mail, she denied ever approaching Fox, Newsmax, or Real America's Voice, and that might be true. But when you lie as your job, once you stop doing that job, I'm gonna suspect that you might still be a liar. So I don't trust you, Trisha McLaughlin. I don't know why anyone would. Now, apparently the reason that she left DHS was after a report detailed how her husband, Ben Yoho, secretly benefited from a no-bid taxpayer-funded contract to produce border control ads featuring Noem. And I love that for them. That's a story that we covered quite a while ago about the fact that they had set those up and just utterly corruptly routed that money to people that they actually knew. There was an official investigation that's been launched by the DHS Inspector General's office. We'll see about that. But she has to be kind of surprised, Jayar, that she did everything that she's supposed to do to get one of these positions. And yet so far it looks like it's not working out. I think she might end up on Rumble or Kick or something. What do you think?
I feel like I'm just as surprised as she is. Yeah, usually you get rewarded in this administration and anywhere in it from being the worst person possible, from being completely vapid, they had nothing behind your eyes, and just repeating the propaganda, pushing the fascism, demonizing normal human beings. That was all, she did it perfectly. I'm actually really surprised. Maybe they're gathering some kind of different funds together. Maybe these groups don't want to have to answer the questions behind whatever corruption investigations that are going on. I don't know why. I'm really trying to figure it out. Like, she fits the mold. You can't tell her from one of these staffers to the next. She reminds me of the one that was given the position to then go after, I think, James Comey and the rest of those folks, and then she was run out of there because she wasn't qualified. They're all like the same person, but maybe I assume she's gonna catch on somewhere. I'm actually very surprised Fox News didn't swoop her up immediately.
I think you're thinking of Lindsay Halligan, I believe.
Yes,
the person you're thinking. Yeah, no. There's definitely a template for these people. But by the way, there is another option. Asherai Zumi says, I'm sure CBS or CNN will hire her. And I immediately thought, oh yeah, that's actually, there's a pretty good chance of that. Maybe more so than Real America's Voice. But anyway, worst of luck to you, Trisha McLaughlin. You suck. Okay, with that said, let's move on to one more story. Yeah, we just want to have a little bit of fun. So get all the way off my back as I launch into this. MAGA men are, by definition and self-selection, pretty easy to fool. I mean, they trusted Donald Trump. So it's perhaps not a complete surprise that they are lining up to pay real money for fake pictures of feet. And here we're talking about Jessica Foster. She's an Instagram hottie who doesn't exist or anything, but she does have 1 million followers, and she will post those feet. Now, notably, the feet occasionally are seen near Donald Trump, and that may be the secret sauce that pulls in those red hat men. Also, the fact that she is a soldier. Well, she's not a soldier, she doesn't exist at all, but the images of her often make it look like she is. Here's one. So this is Jessica Foster in a AI image that was then put on Instagram and is just doing gangbusters numbers over there. I'm sure it's not the only thing that's busting. I apologize in advance for that. But anyway, she's not just in the Oval Office, which should probably be like, I don't know, the first warning sign. Does Donald Trump often let like weirdly scantily clad for a soldier women just pose them in the Oval Office? Probably, actually. But it's not just that. She's not just a soldier. She's posted photos of her with Vladimir Putin and Trump, Vladimir Zelensky and Trump. She's just constantly there. She also has an image of her talking at Trump's Border of Peace conference, which, first of all, it's not the Border of Peace, it's the Board of Peace. So that should probably be another warning sign. None of those are enough to get these men to realize that they're being duped. And I suspect I know why. And I think it's the same reason that she has 1 million followers. It's not the images of her with Vladimir Zelensky. It's images like this, where yes, she's still in her BDUs or whatever, but her feet are out for some reason. And it's weird, the experience of looking at this person's Instagram thing, because I'm gonna show you, this is one screenshot I took of 6 images. So the experience you have following her is her giving an address to the military and then feet. Her, I guess, wrestling with another woman and then she's marching with the president. She's addressing Jake Paul and then the feet are out back again. It's kind of like the ideal thing for a right-wing man. I want to see Trump and I want to see Jake Paul, but I also want something that hints at lesbians. Even though I supposedly hate them, I love the idea of them. And then if there could be some feet, that would be great. And maybe some stockings. I'm willing to bet all of my money that it is an Eastern European male between 40 and 55 years old. They know what these guys want and they deliver it. 7 of the photos so far focus on her feet. The photos do super well, by the way. And so, look, it is kind of embarrassing that this works. In the same way that it's embarrassing that all of these AI accounts do so well on social media. But there is a silver lining, Jayar, which is that if these men are giving all of their money to this Eastern European male, they're at least not giving it to Trump. And I guess that's an improvement. What do you think?
Maybe, I guess. I refuse to believe they don't know this. I refuse to believe this.
I don't know, man.
Oh my God. I mean, this is a simple money maker. Man, I should steal some of their money. This is great. The first thing that came to mind, even from the first picture, I hadn't seen the rest of these ridiculous pictures. In what scenario, what real life scenario should you be looking at this fake person with feet up, with, I guess, military fatigues and outfits on that she's supposed to be wearing, when at the same time they were salivating. They were probably drooling just as much as they are at her feet. And Pete Hegseth talking about how much he hates women in the military, how much he hates them being there, how much of a distraction they are, how weak they are, how they can't do anything. They're ineffective. That's the destruction of our military. Morale is down. Well, I guess something else is up when their feet are out and she's sitting with her feet on the table looking at Jake Paul. So as they're handling their business and they see Donald Trump's head over her shoulders and Jake Paul drooling next to her face, does that add to the pleasure?
Yes, it does. They want to believe that there are hotties that agree with them when it comes to politics. That's what I think. And in terms of whether they believe this is a real person or not, I think indisputably many of them do, because she'll post something like, if you like a young female soldier, put a heart in the comments, and they do it.
Oh my God.
If you just want to look at the image and you think it's hot, well, indisputably it is fairly hot or whatever. That's fine, but you're responding to its demands. You believe that it's real. And again, if a person actually are posting stuff like this, I have nothing against any of this sort of work. That's all fine. But pay a human who does it, not some guy using Grok or whatever. There are real, locally sourced, farm-to-table feet that you can pay for photos of that benefit actual women in the real world. Do that. Not only is that, I think, more moral, also better for the environment than these digitally produced feet pics. Anyway, with that said, that is all the time that we have for feet and for everything, basically. Jayar, it is a pleasure to have you here. Thank you for joining us as always.
Well, it could have been one less story, but I mean, I'll take it.
Anyway, everybody follow the watch list every day of the week. You can follow not only his videos, his watch party. It's a lot of fun. Tomorrow is gonna be a John Solo show, so don't leave me alone, okay? Come and hang out with me. It should be a lot of fun. And with that, stay safe out there, stay sane out there, and we'll see you soon.